Okay, now the sounds of the Tony Awards should not be confused with this.
2, 4, 6, 8.
Those are dancers at a lap dancing club in Sheffield who've been marching through the city centre opposing plans to close it.
Show me what a feminist looks like. This is what a feminist looks like.
This is what a feminist looks like, say the dancers. Spearmint Rhino in Sheffield is the city's only licensed strip club, and the council was due to decide this week on whether it should remain open. They're under pressure to rescind the licence by people who feel sexual entertainment venues exploit and objectify women and do not belong in the 21st century. But the protests have come from the women who actually work at Spearmint Rhino, who've, as you heard there, taken to the streets, furious they could lose their livelihoods. They feel their right to work wherever they choose should be respected. This is one of the dancers speaking to the BBC about what they do.
It's given us a lot of us motivation that we need to succeed in other areas in life, and it's also helped a lot of us to fund things like degrees, different courses like personal training courses. People have started their own businesses from doing this, and without the opportunity of making the money that you want to make, it wouldn't have been possible for a lot of people.
Now, the decision over whether to renew Spearmint Rhino's licence in Sheffield was due this week, but has been delayed after the council was handed footage which allegedly shows sex acts being conducted inside the club. That's now being investigated, so that's another layer to this. In a moment, we'll hear both sides of the argument. Are strip clubs an archaic and outdated form of men's entertainment that treat women's bodies as nothing but objects? Or should the choice of the women who work there be respected and the club left alone? 08000 288 291. Email vine@bbc.co.uk with your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you on this. Very tricky for the council. We speak first to Liz Roberts, political reporter for BBC Sheffield. So they've got to make a really tricky decision here.
Yeah, and this is something that comes up every year. I mean, a condition of the licensing for this club in Sheffield is that it has to renew its license every year. So this is not an argument that has suddenly arisen just this year. Every single year there is a campaign for the license to be removed, and every year it gets relicensed, or has done so far anyway. So the council in licensing, though, there are certain things that it has to take into consideration, like location, the way that it's managed, by who. What councils can't do is object on moral grounds. And then this is where we enter murky waters. Though those are the rules, but obviously that's a grey area in itself. So it's not as straightforward as that. What councils also have to do is consider the Equality Act. And under the Equality Act, they are required to promote equality of opportunity and promote good relations. And it's on these grounds that the campaign groups that think that these types of venues shouldn't exist are saying that what isn't taken into account is the wider impact on gender inequality.
What seems to have sharpened it this year is this footage has emerged of people allegedly having sex acts or something inside the club. I'm not aware of this footage anywhere. Has it been leaked publicly?
It hasn't been leaked publicly, but what happened a couple of months ago in a full council meeting in Sheffield is that a petition was presented and against the licensing of Spearmint Rhino. And as part of that presentation to the council, campaigners detailed reports that had been compiled by private investigators who'd gone into Spearmint Rhino in Sheffield, being one of the clubs across the country that they went into. They had private dances, and then they detailed what happened in those private dances. And I can tell you, there was some very explicit detail, Jeremy, that people were not used to hearing in a full council meeting, to the extent where the leader of the council and some others walked out of the room because they had just simply not been forewarned of the kind of language that they were going to listen to.
They walked out of the room because they were disgusted with the footage?
They didn't see the footage. It wasn't footage that was played. It was written accounts of the private investigators' reports into what they had discovered when they went into the club. Now, what we understand is that as part of that, they have also done secret filming, and that filming has been handed to council officers who are due to make their decision on this relicensing issue.
And that decision comes in the next few days, does it?
It was due yesterday. It has been delayed because of this now investigation that is going on. Having said that, they've, as far as I'm aware, they've now been aware of this undercover sting, if you like, for the last couple of months, and they haven't reached a decision yet.
Thank you very much, Liz Roberts, political reporter for BBC Sheffield. So, the undercover thing adds a dimension. Obviously, we've got Me Too and Harvey Weinstein and all that. There's a different kind of argument going on this year, and the protesters are really pushing to close the club. But there are protesters inside the club as well who say, no, we want to keep our livelihoods. Lisa from Sheffield is against this strip club, and Gabby Willis is the women's officer at Sheffield Hallam University. Now, interestingly, Gabby, you were supporting the dancers.
Yep, I led the march yesterday, chanting, and did a speech at the rally as well.
Because normally, now I've got to deal with my own sort of thoughts that you would be, as the women's officer at Sheffield Hallam, you would be protesting against the strip club, but it's the other way round.
Yeah, this is a question that I've been asked a lot, actually, being interviewed about all of this, and I find it quite surprising, actually. Kind of, as students, we support the rights of people to be able to do what they want with their bodies, and to have bodily autonomy and to have that freedom. And we've got policy at our students' union to support sex workers' rights, because in supporting their rights, that makes them safer. So that's why I'm so heavily involved in this.
Understood. Lisa from Sheffield, what do you disagree with there?
Well, I just want to say that as a campaign group, there's a huge coalition of women from all backgrounds and characteristics, and that it does include women who've worked in the industry as well. The issue about choice is really complicated, because there are choices that women may make, and women have autonomy, but choices have consequences. And one of the concerns we have, and it isn't a moral objection, it's about an equality issue. One of the concerns we have is about the harmful impact of the processes of objectification and commodification of women. That's part of the bread and butter of what goes on in sexual entertainment venues, and that has wider implications in terms of how women and men are perceived, in terms of the roles, in terms of sexual activity. It's very heteronormative. It promotes a very stereotypical view of appropriate sexual relationships between men and women. The other issue about harm, which is really, really important, because I have heard Gabby talking about survivors of sexual abuse and sexual violence. Not all women who make the choice to work in something that I think is now loosely described as sexual entertainment or the sex industry, not all women have experienced abuse, but very, very significant numbers have.
That's not a claim that I ever made.
No, I've heard that said, and I've heard a discussion about particular cases. But I would also say that there's a wider there is a wider impact in terms of how this activity potentially fosters a climate of sexual harassment and sexual misconduct.
I've got that. You said that. Yeah, okay.
Of sexual harassment from within the club itself.
Can I just go back to Gabby? That's a good point, Gabby. Just to truncate it slightly, that the way a woman behaves with a man, one woman may cause the man to behave in a terrible way to another woman.
Jeremy,
can I ask Gabby for her answer?
Sure.
That's blaming women for what happens to them. If you say that the way a woman behaves with one man causes something to happen to another woman, it's a man.
Yes, well, it's clearly the man. It doesn't really matter. It's just that one thing causes another. That's the point that Lisa was making.
I think it's the soup in which we all swim together,
right.
And there's something about the cultural kind of messages that it gives at a time when we know that sexual harassment on university campuses is right. There's no evidence that sexual violence is reducing, and those sorts of things. I think that's the point. Sorry, Gabby.
Gabby, we're listening.
Misogyny causes violence against women, not women doing what they want with their bodies. And I think that it's a shame that we've kind of all become so divided as feminists on an issue like this, where we should be fighting kind of all for the same thing, which is for women to...
You've slightly taken the heart out of what I tried to say there. So let me just try again. Would you be happy, Gabby, having blokes at the university who spend half their time in strip clubs?
If they want to, yeah.
You happy with that? Lisa, are you happy with that?
Well, I can tell you that we have had male students and female students as well come and talk with us, and some of whom are quite frightened of raising these issues because of this overall, the message that it's okay. It's more complicated than it sounds in these short sound bites. But we have had men and women coming to us and saying that they feel very uncomfortable. We have had large numbers of women, some of whom have worked in the industry, some of whom have not, who will say that they will they have avoided and will avoid the area in which Spearmint Rhino is located, and that they have also had experiences of inappropriate conduct outside around the vicinity of that club. I have also very recently had a woman who said to me that she thought it was better that women were dancing in strip clubs because that would stop them raping women. Now, this was a very well-informed woman, but that is an astonishing and inappropriate stereotype. I have worked in the field of sexual violence for about 35 years, and I can categorically state that strip clubs do not stop women being raped. They may indirectly contribute to women being sexually assaulted, but I am certainly not blaming the women for that.
Lisa, thank you very much.
One of the issues about the campaign is the extent to which women are being blamed for issues which should be the responsibility of the organisation of the sexual entertainment venues and the management of those services and the culture.
Thank you. Lisa from Sheffield, who believes strip clubs have no place in a truly equal society. Gabby Willis, women's officer at nearby Sheffield Hallam University. Interestingly, Gabby was at the protest in support of the dancers. So very different views there, all centering on Spearmint Rhino in Sheffield, and whether actually this is the year for the council to finally say, look, this place doesn't even belong to the 20th century, it's probably in the 19th, close it and let's move on with the modern world. I've got a cheek. Strip club in Sheffield is our subject. That's Crowded House. Yeah, I guess that's not the most opportune choice of band. Peter from Mid Wales emails, in an age of equality and equal rights, no one should be able to tell adult women what they can and can't do with their bodies. That's fundamentally the discussion we were having. Such an interesting talk with Lisa and Gabby. Totally disagree on whether actually the strippers in the end, or the female dancers maybe I should say, should be the ones who decide. That if they don't feel their rights are being infringed and they don't feel they're being exploited, that's it. There isn't anywhere else you go with the argument. Pam Bartholomew in Rainworth, Nottinghamshire says the people who are protesting against this club have got a cheek. The girls have chosen that lifestyle. They have rights too. No one can decide what a woman does with her body apart from the woman herself. There we go. The argument against, in case you missed it, was somewhat that maybe the bloke, the customer, is somehow triggered by his contact with the woman in the strip club to go outside the strip club and behave unpleasantly elsewhere, in summary. Lee Swords is in Sheffield. Have you been to the Rhino, the Spearmint Rhino, Lee?
Yeah, several times, yeah. Great night.
With your wife?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so it's quite above board.
With friends.
Yeah.
It is all above board, yeah. And it is a cracking night. Really? It's a very, very safe environment. It's a very safe club. The doormen are fantastic, very professional. And if I wanted a safe night, or guaranteed no violence, no drugs, no, it's a great night. Yeah, it is an erotic environment, but we're all adults.
I haven't been there, but I'm imagining is it lap dancing or stripping or both?
No, it's a pole dancing club. So you've got a stage, you've got a pole, you've got girls that do a little twirly dance. You have a drink, and it's great fun.
And do they take everything off?
If you have a private dance, there is a nude lap dance. Yes. Right.
And if you have one, does your wife complain?
No, she has one with me.
So she goes in the room with, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very tolerant.
We're a couple.
Okay. Yeah. She doesn't say get your eyes off her.
No. It's a modern world.
Okay.
We're a modern couple.
Right, Lee, thank you very much. So it's me taught a lesson. Ella Smith is a dancer at Spearmint Rhino itself. So there we are. We are at the heart of the story here. Hi, Ella.
Hi.
Okay, so the council might just shut you down. Is that right?
Possibly, yeah. They could revoke our licence.
And we just had Lee. His name is Lee Swords, apparently, just on the phone. Do you know Lee, one of the customers?
No, I don't know him. I don't think I do anyway.
No. So tell us why you don't feel you're being exploited.
I don't feel we're being exploited because it is completely our choice to do this. I love going to work. It's the best place that I've ever been in. So I really don't think I'm exploited. And these women are saying that they're doing this to help us because we're exploited, but refuse to talk to us. And I think everyone needs to realise how important that is, that we have reached out to talk to these women and asked to explain our views on the industry, but because we're exploited, they refuse to talk to us. And that is actually detrimental to their case, because how can you help someone when you've never actually spoken to them before?
Let me read out a comment. This is Andrea Holland in Norwich, Ella, and she says, lap dancers are not, nor can they ever be feminists, because they are there to serve as sexual entertainment. It's fair enough they want to keep their jobs, but they can't call themselves feminists.
Okay, I'm not huge into feminism, but I would say that we can call ourselves feminists, because we're about appreciating the female form. It may be a form of sexual entertainment, but at the minute in modern day society, mental health is absolutely rifle. Like, it is so high at the minute, the
You're
issues
right.
in mental health surrounding body confidence and body image, and this is due to Instagram and social media that put these pressures on girls to look a certain way. If girls come into the club, they can realise that actually cellulite is normal, stretch marks are normal, people look different, people have bigger tummies, bigger bums, bigger boobs, anything. No one looks like they do on Instagram. And I actually think strip clubs help promote a healthy body positivity image. We don't all look perfect, we all have little bumps and niggles, and we're all proud of it. So I actually think it can help promote mental health.
Understood. Do you feel when you are in a dance or a strip and you've got a bloke staring at you, who's in control, you or him?
Completely me. Like, we set the authority straight away. If I ever felt not in control, I wouldn't engage with the dance. We don't have to do anything we don't want to do. If someone speaks to us that makes us feel uncomfortable, we look at the security guards or we get them over. They don't have to do anything and they'll be out straight away. It is our job and we own it. We are in complete control 100% of the time in that club.
All right, here's the one other argument, Ella, which we heard earlier. And this is Sarah White in Bournemouth who's called in. And she says strip clubs make men a nuisance to women who are not strippers, because it makes men think that if you're blonde and good looking on the street, you're fair game. What about that?
I wouldn't really agree with that at all, because that's stereotyping strippers ought to be blonde. But it doesn't make men a nuisance, because I would say I get more harassed in a nightclub than I do ever at work. And also, another thing to these women trying to shut us down, we're not the only sexual entertainment licensed venue in Sheffield, so I don't understand why they're not focusing on places like Lashamba, where you can actually go in and have more than a lap dance in there, but us taking our clothes off with no contact is a huge issue to them.
And my last question is, if you are fully naked in front of a customer you don't know, isn't that weird? Doesn't that feel wrong to you?
Not at all, absolutely not at all. I love being naked, and this job has given me the most confidence in the world, because I was saying to some other people, I literally leave my house and people pay to look at me. Like, what more fantastic job? People pay you for being you. Like, where else do you get that gratification and that enhancement of yourself? Like, people are paying to look at you. It's an amazing feeling, and it makes you feel so good about yourself. Because some people don't even want to see your naked body. Some people want to talk to you and get to know you. Some people want to compliment your hair. Some people want to compliment your eyes. So it's being a lap dancer is not just about being naked all the time. Some people don't even want you to take your clothes off. They want to talk. They want to get to know someone, or they literally just want to admire a female.
Yeah, thank you, Ella, very much. Lovely to talk to you. All the best.
Thank you.
Ella Smith, who is one of the strippers or dancers at Spearmint Rhino in Sheffield, which is currently threatened with closure.
Hello, this is Paddy McGuinness. Freddie Flintoff.